We know him as the Collier County Hearing Examiner and Chairman of the Collier County Planning Commission. Mark's experience in construction, development, planning, and land use spans over 40 years. Only 40 years, most of which has been in Collier County. September of 2001, Mark was appointed to the Collier County Planning Commission. 2005, he was elected chairman and has remained in that position for the past 13 years. In the spring of 2013, Mark was hired as Collier County's first hearing examiner, working under contract for the Board of County Commissioners. These past few years have witnessed the opening of the hearing examiner's office and seen the steady and timely processing of many land use applications, all of which are reviewed by the hearing examiner as final decisions are made. So with that, please give another warm neighbor welcome to Mark Strain. Thank you, Mark.
Here we go. Well, first of all, thank you for asking me back here to neighbor. I have been in this room several times this year. This is a 2018 presentation. Each year it's rebuilt. During the summer each year I start collecting everything that happened for the past 6 months of that year, or 8 months, start building it and put it together. So what you see now is new for 2018, and what's coming up in 2019 will be brand new, completely different formatted presentation. So hopefully I can come back and share that with you at another point in the future. Now, as far as what this one is about, it's our growth and infrastructure and services for 2018. Your IT department has asked me to stand close to the screen. Normally I move around. I'm so excited about Collier County. There is so much happening. I tend to move all over the place, so I'll try to stay just so they can keep me in this film. I guess it's being filmed. For those of you who need a copy of it, I intend to leave a PDF with Carrie today. So if there's, hopefully I can get a flash drive before I leave. It's 200 megabytes, so it can't be emailed, but you're more than welcome to a copy of it. Today's presentation will bring in some new development and some updates on development that has started last year and going into things this year. Redevelopment, all kinds of new stuff happening in redevelopment. In fact, you probably heard about the new high-rise projects going in down at the Triangle as you approach the city of Naples. They're on here along with a lot of other information. Planning. Now, last week I did a presentation to one of the largest employers in Collier County about their future planning in the county. It turned out I added some information about the eastern lands that was quite valuable to them, and I thought of you all, so I added some of that to this presentation. So it's a little longer than normal, but it has a lot of new information about where things are going out east. Out east is where things are going to be happening in Collier County in the future. The urban area is pretty much set on infill. Everything out east is new towns. We have about 5 of them now in some process in Collier County, and I'll show you all those. The planning areas are the Rural Fringe Mixed-Use District, Golden Gate Estates. There's 30,000 more people on top of what's already there that could be placed in Golden Gate Estates based on the amount of housing that's still yet to go there. The RLSA, which is a Rural Land Stewardship area, that's where Ave Maria is, and that's where a lot of the new towns are going. Roads. Oh, roads are a headache for everyone. They certainly are for me. I'm assuming we all sit in our traffic. There is solutions. They're long-term. Nothing can happen quickly with roads, unfortunately. And then housing. I got some updates on the housing statistics, the numbers. Last time I spoke to you, I believe I showed you what we had scatter maps at that time. I had them updated. They are going to be updated again in July for the next year presentation. Population, where that's going, and based on what we know now and potentially what we see coming up out east. Other services are where some of our other departments are doing to cover themselves for the influx in the eastern areas, and then while we are still here. While we are still here is the good news items. Some of this other stuff, you got to wonder if we're getting too crowded compared to other communities. I don't think we are, but hopefully that will resolve some of that. And then everything I have here is information to the best of my knowledge at this time. It means someone's come through the front door over at Developmental Services, either applied for something and sat down with some of us and said, we're thinking of doing this to this property, and they've actually made some kind of submittal. So that's the stuff that's here. It is subject to change, because once somebody starts in the system, over the year or two it takes to get approved, it could change radically. So just be aware that everything is not locked in stone. Collier County is made up of 5 political districts. These are the 5 districts in each color. They're based on, yes ma'am. How's that? I'm sorry. I'm glad you pointed that out. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm just not used to talking with something this close to me. Okay, each political district is made up by population, about 70,000 people in each district. That star you see will be on all the slides that I can locate us today. So when you want to understand how this all fits in, that's generally where we are. It'll just pop up in each one of the slides where it fits. We are the largest county out of 67 counties in the state of Florida, about 2,305 square miles. The other 3 municipalities are less than 2% of the overall size of the county. So the job of our elected officials in a county this large is quite intense. 98% of the land area is under one jurisdiction. That is the rural land stewardship area. It's the up-and-coming area out east. It's 300 acres of that 2,305. When you look at the permanent population in Collier County, in 2017 it was 365. Next year's number obviously will be higher. That doesn't include tourism. That adds about 75,000 people or more. This year it went on a lot longer. I think a lot of folks came down to deal with their hurricane issues. So we had a longer tourist season this year. The city of Naples and Marco Island are less than 20,000, and the Everglades City is 402. You ever all familiar with Everglades City? Back in the 80s, I was vice chairman of the Chamber of Commerce there, and I met my wife then. I took her down to Everglades City because I found this neat little house I thought would be great because I could go fishing. Well, she was from Ohio, and I took her there in a dusk during the summer, in the rainy season. If you ever been to Everglades City, besides the seafood festival, mosquitoes. We didn't buy the house. I got my wife, thank God. So now, a lot of folks, after they see this, they say at the end, well, how can we not be like Miami? Here's why. 1.5 million acres approximately in Collier County. 77% of that is in permanent preservation. It will not be built, will not be developed upon. The entitled areas, which are these light browns, primarily in this area right here, there's only 13% of the county, and the white areas, along with the light blues and light browns out here, are the only areas left to build in Collier County. Now, you see a lot of building going on, but it's these entitled areas, some of which were entitled since the 60s. Now, when you take a look at these two numbers, less than a quarter of this county will be developed. Now, it does mean we're going to have less overall people, but they're going to be crammed into a tighter space. So if you feel squished, well, it's true. We're going to have to, it's going to get tightened up a little bit. Development standards and densities are probably going to change. They certainly have out east. There's your urban area. That's where we are today. This is the replanting areas. Rural Fringe Mixed Use District is the green areas. This has got a combination of residential, commercial components. It surrounds on 3 sides the estates. This is the rural land stewardship area where Ave Maria is, and several new towns are coming in. And then Immokalee, because Immokalee is surrounded by the rural RLSA, it's being replanned. So these 4 areas are all under what's called a replanting effort by Collier County. It is dynamically going to change what happens out east. Out east, in the end, will carry a population greater than the urban area of Collier County. Now, think about what that means in elected officials, politics, and everything else, because it will change things for the county dramatically. New development. This is mostly what's our overall county. That's our location again. 119 projects last year. 16 were in District 5. Most of those were in the Immokalee area. North Naples had a total of 48, and that's Districts 2 and 2 and 3. And then East Naples led the charge in the urban area. It had 55 commercial components there. And what do you see what some of those are? Now, last year we had 76 projects of commercial permitted. How's that compare against residential? These are your residential numbers. Here's what's very interesting. The highest residential component in Collier County wasn't just in District 5. It was mostly right here, 1,296. That's Ave Maria. That's one community out in the eastern lands. Up in North Naples, in the 2 districts, they had small numbers. East Naples in the urban area led the charge with 1028, but one town beat any of those districts. So that new towns out east are going to catch on. Price points are well, and they've got a lot of mix out there. Last year we had 4,182 lots. I think the hurricane slowed down some of the platting process. We look along the beach. When I came here, I was working in development on high-rise. I thought we were all mostly built out. There's 2 high-rises in Pelican Bay called Mystique. And there's one in, there was a high-rise plan for one Naples. They may be changing that. I'll show you what they've got to say about that. Collier Bay is one in north off Wiggins Pass Road, and there's 5 high-rises going there. Let's take a look at Pelican Bay. This is the Mystique location. It's halfway up out of the ground now. I have some pictures, but they're being added for next year's updates. 81 units per building. The price points are in the millions, low millions, 1.5 or 2, somewhere in that nature. They've got a second twin tower going right here. That one is going to follow this one, I assume, after the sellout of the first one. That's what the building will look like when it's completed. We go up a little bit north of that. This particular property was purchased or is in the process of being accumulated by a developer. And what they had proposed at one point is to put this kind of configuration on that property. They went out to the neighborhood in the area to see, okay, what do you think of this project? Now their website says this. We are redefining because of the feedback, so I'm not sure what that means, but maybe by next year I can provide an update. Collier Bay, just to the north. This one was approved in the year 2000, went through some rewrites in 2008, but basically the 5 towers are right there. The first tower is opened, and mostly the folks are moving in. The second tower is in process, so they're moving ahead. Each tower has about 120 units, total of 5 buildings, and they just now came in for their permit for the golf course that's supposed to go across the street. That's the only golf course that's come in Collier County now for quite some time. Most of them are actually being considered for redevelopment. We look at a couple of the corridors. Pine Ridge Road corridor right through there. Actually, Mockley Road. I'm sorry, Pine Ridge is second. Mockley Road has seen a lot of influx. Now, we only have 2 east-west connectors of any size right now, Mockley and Pine Ridge. Vanderbilt's not completed yet. But when you look at what's happening on the east side of Mockley Road, this is out in Orange Tree. There's your Randall Boulevard and Mockley intersection. There's been a request for some commercial up here. This particular parcel is owned by Collier County. There's been talk about swapping it out for a commercial component, and another request came in for commercial there. I think they're all going to wait to go at one time, but nothing's been decided on that area. It's just people looking at posturing for the future because this intersection is going to be redone. It'll be a substantial intersection in Collier County. Across the street, south of Randall, this is already approved at one level of government for 400,000 square feet. They have to come in for some phasing of the project. They're working on that now. But what slowed them down is Publix opened up right here. And if you've heard, it just doesn't stop. Publix has been packed since they opened. The project here, one of their first, before they can proceed with their first phase, they were supposed to have a grocery store as an anchor. And now with that Publix across the street, I don't know how fast that one's going to go forward. Down further, a little bit further west of Immokalee, this is the activity center at Heritage Bay, one of the hottest and fastest growing activity centers in the county. This is a residential component that's going in a project right here. It's under construction. This is the old Marisol project, and it's now called, I think, it's Esplanade. When this project came out, they said we want to, instead of commercial at 60 feet high, we want to put residential at 55 feet high. These folks were all upset. We don't want a high building next to us. And I said, well, it's lower than what could go there, and it's probably going to be less intense than what could go there. That's too high. We don't want it in our neighborhood. I said, well, what are you going to do when this overpass goes here? Because the overpass is 60 feet high. I'll show you where the overpass is. Their realtors weren't aware of the overpass. They had no idea it was going in. It kind of calmed them down a little bit about that residential structure. Right next door is 85,000 feet of commercial, but they've come in and said they'd like to spread their buildings over here, so there may be some changes coming to that. This big Pelican nursery, if you've been out east, you notice it's kind of not operating. Well, that's because it was bought. The developers come in and ask for 228,000 square feet of commercial with a mixed-use, residential component. Well, I asked, what do you think is going to go in for your commercial? And they're trying to negotiate with Home Depot or Lowe's. Now, when everybody hears commercial going in and all this growth, they say, oh, no, it's going to ruin our roads. When you've got uses like this further east, guess what that means for the folks further east? They don't have to drive all the way east and west on roads we don't have capacity for. So that's really a help to the traffic system, not a hindrance. Across the street, there's a whole bunch of new stuff gone in up there. There's a new memory care unit going in behind Racetrack. And right next to it's a storage area. And you'll see further in this presentation, storage areas are a trend in Collier County. Interesting trend, but they're definitely a trend. They come in two. They come in storage for this and storage for people. You'll see why I see that. I'm one of those people, unfortunately. Further on, a little bit further west at Logan and Immokalee Road, one of the developers come in, and this is approved. It's a neighborhood commercial center right there. Right next to it is a proposed assisted living or single-family project. It hasn't started yet, but it has been approved. The commercial center is supposed to be about 100,000 square feet with an anchor grocery store, and this is where the new Sprouts is going in Collier County. First one and only one so far. So a lot of people are familiar with Sprouts. It's one that everybody speaks really highly of. As we move west, you know that program up here right there, Alfie Oaks? I know he's been working on that forever. It's finally starting to take shape, and he is committed to opening this year. So by the end of the year, that should be open. And it will be a different use for Collier County, one that we've not seen before. He's gone all over the country, which is why it's been slowed up a little bit, and tried to understand the trends in grocery stores. And he's tried to incorporate all the good features into this particular grocery store. With that, he needs some extra room for it. He's looking at some parking spaces over here. I don't know the exact number, but that was pretty close to what we started with talking about. And the facility will be about 60,000 square feet. It's going to employ over 400 people and a lot of multiple interior restaurants, seating of about 300 with an organic cafe. One thing he did is he's filled the inside of that building with mezzanines, and a lot of the dining is going to be up above. It's a pretty nice concept. It's just a matter of when it opens. I hope it's soon. Across the street, we have an AC self-storage facility going in there, so if you see that dirt being turned, that's what it's about. This is the Walmart that exists. Move a little further west, and of course it becomes one of Collier County's anchor businesses, Arthrex. We are their global headquarters. They've gone ahead and built their campus right there at Creekside Commerce. Now, if you're familiar with Trader Joe's, you know that to get to Trader Joe's, you would normally come along Creekside down that way. That Creekside's been rerouted up along there. And Arthrex recently came in for a proposed hotel and now a wellness center right there, both associated and affiliated with people who use their Arthrex R&D facility, which is part of the campus right here. And when the campus is finished, these are the renderings that they provided. That's the main campus, and over here will be the hotel and wellness center. Now, these are all approved. Now, we look back a little bit, and this is Pine Ridge. Pine Ridge is a strange road. It's getting packed, and they've got all kinds of strange ideas on how to make traffic flow better. I've got one of them further on when we get into the road section. When we start on the east side of I-75 and Pine Ridge, you know there's a lot of activity going on. The Honda dealership's up and operational. I think they're open already. They've been at it for a while. There's been request for apartments right here, 268, which is still an active request, but another request came in for a 64-bed assisted living facility right there. I'm not sure what that means. They've not seen anything come back in from this group yet, so they may have dropped out of the picture. I'll know by the next year's presentation. And Hilton's put in a home two, or is going to put in a home two hotel right here. That's behind one of the, I think this is, that's racetrack over here. That's a new bank that went in there. On the south side of the same interchange, Brinewood, south of that, you'll see this land being cleared soon for 66 residential units that are approved. Across the street, all those buildings going in, storage facilities. We have a lot of storage facilities. These are two different kinds. There's a self-storage up front, and there's a luxury car storage in the back. We also have a building coming out of the ground next to the craft centers right here, and that's assisted living at 197 units, and the Joint Institute's going up front, and that building's up, mostly structures up. It's about 15,000 square feet. A little bit further east, someone asked me about this, further west, I'm sorry, earlier in the meeting. That's the Pine Ridge Commons project. It's where the old abandoned, I think it was a Winn-Dixie or an Albertsons or something there, that hasn't been operated for a very long time. So the developer came in with a new concept. Says, hey, we'd like to put in 400 dwelling units there. Some of the parties that bought into this project are some of the parties that are also bought into Mercado. So maybe they're thinking of a situation like that. But that's where they want to put the 400 units. At least that's the previously proposed location. Two other corridors last year were very busy. You're probably used to dealing with them. 951, which is Collier Boulevard, and US 41 East that just got 6-laned all the way out to, I think it's Riggs Road. On the aerials, that's the pieces we'll be talking about. And then this is the triangle. That's where the redevelopment's going on in Collier County. And it is a spectacular redevelopment for our county. It's something that we've not seen in the urban area before. That's mostly your redevelopment area, and we've got some added new development from the last time I spoke to you all in that section right there. That up there is an interesting piece. First, over 1 million shovel-ready commercial is available at that west side of that location. That's big parcels. You'll see them all empty out there. It's shovel-ready, ready to go. And it's got light industrial and C5 or heavy commercial in those locations, so it can have quite a mix. Just in these 6 or 7 big projects in the east. 1.5 million square feet of commercial is also already approved for those. So it's got roads, it's got infrastructure, and it's got commercial components. The hard part about selling it, you have to open up these PUDs and take a look at every single one of them to understand what's available and what can go in there. And that's part of the reason why some of the commercial buyers in the county don't know where they can go, because it's not straight zone. So on the maps, it doesn't identify what can go there. It just says it's got a commercial component. As the sports park up at the intersection of 951 and I-75. You've probably heard about this. The county had several sites. We already owned that site, so we took pieces, 60 acres in each site, and that's where the new sports park's going to go. And when it's all said and done, that's one of the renderings. It's going to be something like that with a lot of open fields, a field house, and then a stadium. It's surrounded, well, first of all, the road system. This will have future connections all the way down to 41 and up to Wilson and Immokalee. This is Collier Boulevard, and of course I-75 is right down here. So from a traffic viewpoint, it worked out really well. From a use surrounding it, it's worked out pretty well too. We got White Lake, which is an industrial park in the county landfill. The only residential was Golden Gate Estates. Residential is a concern when you get into these kind of parks because of the noise. $70 million was the budget number for this park. It's supposed to come out of our tourist taxes. That's one of the things that they're going to be paying for. This is a higher aerial of that same sports park site. That's how it fits in. That's the estate's residential component. Now, we had what's called a neighborhood information meeting. And the folks came out and said what they were concerned about from this park. It was an oddest meeting I've ever heard about. Basically, they came in and said, you know, in the estate, you can fire a gun in your backyard. And we don't think it's safe to have this here because we can fire guns in our backyard. So, okay. So in the minutes of the meeting, I'm reading it, one fellow gets up and says, yes, I fire 200,000 rounds a year. Now, that's 565 rounds a day. Now, how can a sports park make more noise than that? So anyway, the sports park got approved, and the noise issue kind of went away. Collier Boulevard's right here. This is the link that's going to eventually go down to US 41. This loop will take traffic over up to Wilson and Immokalee Roads. The same aerial, same configuration. Here's what we have for substantial projects remaining. There's 13,000 acres zoned and shovel-ready, with still 9,000 remaining in those particular developments alone. That's not including all the small developments. This corridor has got a whole pile of growth going on it. All these colored, these browns and reds are zoning that has been there in some cases back in the 60s. Now it's actually seeing the market ripe, and there's all kinds of components going in. So we'll take it from the east side, we'll go west again. Fiddler's Creek just got approved. This will be the furthest grocery store in the eastern part of the county other than the one that's in Ave Maria. But this will be the furthest east along US 41. They're putting a large grocery store here. They haven't announced what grocery store yet, but that will be the location. There's new business and retail going in a small piece of land right here. Right next to it, there's a church. Just north of that, Argo Manatee. 191 residential units. They'll be clearing that. That's right at by the Manatee School, which is right here. Up at that intersection, there's a 96,000 square foot, 3-story self-storage in for application next to Tractor Supply. Aldi's has moved from up here down to here, and they're in for building permit now. That'll be Aldi's third location in Collier County. The second, or one of the other ones, is on Radio Road in Santa Barbara, and I'm not sure I have it on this slide, but that's where it'll be. So, remember I told you they're storing all kinds of things in Collier County, self-storage. We have 58 built, 10 approved. Now, first of all, let me show you what's happened. These are just in East Naples. And you wonder why Commissioner Fiala says I have enough storage facilities. 600,000 square feet just in the East Naples area. Now, on top of that, I've had calls. A gentleman called me the other day from a national storage facility, and he says they're looking at a piece of property, want to know if the zoning would work. I said, well, yep, you're zoned for it. I said, would you answer a question for me? Why do you guys want to put so much storage facilities here? He said the numbers that they've got, their storage is still underserved in the East Naples area, especially with the new growth coming up. So I don't think we've seen the end of storage facilities. As we move along Collier Boulevard and US 41, Staybridge Hotels is putting 100 units in right there off of Triangle Boulevard, right at the corner. There's a new sit-down restaurant going in there. It was first going to be a First Watch or one of those, and they took the name off of it, and I'm not sure. It's a generic one now, so I'm not sure who's going to end up going there. Wawa gas station, 4 of them in Collier County. That's one of the sites. It's all cleared, and it's actually being built. And that same site, there's going to be a Dollar Tree and a Tire Kingdom. As we move west, this area has all been cleared. It's dramatic. Everybody's seen those trees there for all those years. It's wide open now. 200 multifamily. It's got a commercial component on the corner that's not been applied for yet, but the multifamily has been. As you go further up, another one of the storage facilities going in. You'll see that clearing starting by Floridian Ave. Yeah, well, I do these with Commissioner Fiala once in a while, and I did that for her. She really is. Storage facilities from a planning perspective are kind of neat, because if you do 100,000 square feet in a storage facility, you need about 12 parking spaces. You do 100,000 square feet in an office building, or retail even more, but an office building, you need 200 parking spaces. So you got this asphalt and fields and lights and all this other stuff you got to worry about, but storage facilities are pretty benign. But I got to understand the commissioner's point. She says, well, you can't do anything with them. They just sit there. She likes things you can go in and sit down and have a meal, or you can buy stuff at. So anyway, that's her position, and it's a very valid position. One of the Wawa, you'll know at the Rattlesnake Hammock and 41, there's an old shopping center there. The end of it's coming down. Wawa's being built right in that location. Across the street, Isles of Collier. You know, we have an issue with apartments in Collier County. This is one that's helping. 340 units right there at Thomason Drive. Go further up. This is right next to the Advance Auto is O'Reilly Auto Parts going in, so that ought to be an interesting competition. Across the street, Walmart's are going to be putting $4 to $5 million in, taking out the auto parts in the north end and replacing it with a grocery section, plus upgrading the whole facade. A little bit further, you'll see a bunch of fencing up now. That's for another hotel. It's called the Spring Suites. And directly across from that, same kind of fencing going in, it's another storage facility. And there's this is the area where a lot of the big stuff's happening. This is your gateway triangle, we call it. That's where some of these updates for the high-rise projects, I should say, are going in. This is the triangle. The orange is the commercial. The center core is residential. Down here at the south end, this particular, it was a Publix. Before that, I'm not sure what it was. That particular project has been vacant for a while. They've come in and potentially it might be a mix of multifamily and commercial now. And right at the corner, you see a new building going in. So when you drive down airport, that building is one of my favorites. It'll be Starbucks. So they're going in there. Up here is the mini triangle. That's where the new high-rise and heavy commercials going in that we've recently approved. Racetrack was going to go at Palm and 41. Racetrack said after all the public outcry and concerns from the residences, they moved down to Shadowlawn in Bayshore, right down here, and they're taking out about 5 or 6 existing commercial buildings to put in their new racetrack. When it gets all done, it'll look something like that. That's at Shadowlawn and Bayshore, or Shadowlawn and 41. Proposed mini triangle, this is the Fred Pozeschkin project and the Trio project out front. The Pozeschkin project is back there. The Trio project was this project here, and there's an interesting twist on that one lately. The Pozeschkin project is supposed to look like this. 163 is the cap on the height that was basically set by the Naples airport. Several buildings, all mixed use, combination of residential, hotel, commercial, a lot of different components. That's one proposed mix. The intensity was based on that mix, but they can fluctuate up and down, but never increase that intensity. One out front is called the Trio project. It was in for permitting. It was allowed at 112 feet high. It didn't need a public process because the zoning already allowed it. They came in for a series of permits. They got them all. Then they came in for amendment. In the amendment process, they looked at a couple different mixes of hotel and residential units. None of it seemed objectionable, but then all of a sudden it was, I guess, taken by the lender. A new entity is looking at buying it, so it'll be taken over by somebody else. I don't know what they're going to come up with or propose for that location. And our planning issues. That's the coastal urban area we're in. That used to be the urban boundary. When I got here over 40 years ago, you never crossed that urban boundary with much of anything. It's completely different. 99, Governor Bush said, you know, you guys have got to allow development out here. And as a result of a governor's order, we had a moratorium for 2 years, and redesigned that part of the county. Basically, it was this area first, a mix of environmental and commercial residential in that area for the most part. It surrounds Golden Gate Estates, so we had to replan that area. And the rural land stewardship area had to have a balance between environmental, agriculture, and development. We're still trying to strive to get that balance, but that's what we started with. And this is Immokalee, surrounded by the RLSA, so it's also going through a replanning effort. So let's look at the first one. Rural Fringe Mixed Use District. The location of these, as far as how it fits into the county, are these areas right here. And it's those blue areas that are important. Those blue areas can be developed. They also happen to surround Golden Gate Estates, so that means your infrastructure, traffic, and other things are going to impact this area here. Those 4 areas are where new villages can go in that area. And 2 of those are actively being considered. Well, actually, one is, and one has got a, I'll show you what the other one is. If we look at how it affects the estates, here's your layout. These same areas, this area was difficult to plan because of so many different people that owned it. But if you separate the distances out, that's where the villages can go. Got to be 3 miles between each village. And that is the biggest contiguous area in the whole, and that one is somewhat special. This one here has got someone looking at it, and this one down here has had a lot of people looking at it. This one was just recently bought by a developer on the East Coast. And for that one up north next to Orange Tree, this is how it fits in. That's the new Publix location we talked about earlier. That's Orange Tree. North of Orange Tree, right there, is where this new development could go, this new village could go, and that was recently purchased by a developer from the East Coast. Now, I don't know what he plans to do, but one of the designs on the website that sold the property called for a design like this, indicating 4,500 units could go in that location. So I'm not sure what's going to end up there, but that is one of the possibilities. Well, the towns out east are much bigger than that. This is a piece down in the south end I also mentioned. This is down by Fiddler's Creek. The blue represents the area that could be a village or high-density concentration. That's 7,600 acres. The green is Ave Maria. Ave Maria is actually smaller than what could be built there. And that is designated as a high-density area that could be developed into something with commercial and residential components. Golden Gate Estates, just a quick couple notes on Golden Gate Estates. That's how this is the estates over to the left. Those are density nodes. The density nodes are where the people out in the rural land stewardship area, the landowners, thought the new villages and towns might go. All those are the high density areas, and if you notice, they surround the estates. That's why the estates is now in for planning, because as we've already seen, Benfield Beach Road needs to be extended out to one of the developments out here. This is Randall that will also go out to the development out here. This is another new development. And that's the orange, that's that area, that's the Orange Tree area right there, and that's the town that is also being considered, I just mentioned, north of Orange Tree. This is Golden Gate Estates. The south blocks were purchased for restoration, so we're just concentrating on the north. It's about 50% built out. So what does that mean? There's your numbers. You compute those out to persons per household, you're looking at about 31,000 people to finish building out Golden Gate Estates. So it's half built out right now. But that's the potential additional population just in the estates alone. Rural land stewardship area, this is the area where Ave Maria is. That's the area we're talking about. That's Ave Maria's general location. This is another project called Rural Lands West. It's going to go through process. It'll probably be in for public meetings by the end of the year. This is a brand new one. Neal Communities bought a 645-acre project right there. And then to the north is one called Hogan Island. It's Baron Collier is developing that. Now these three are in for process on top of Ave Maria already existing. So you multiply that out and you figure out the number of units they're asking for each one of these. There they are. That comes to about 60,000 people. There's 2 million square feet of a commercial here and 2 million square feet of commercial allowed in both of these areas. Each one says they're going to employ about 6,000 people. That's 12,000 employees in that same area. That's how they fit in. This particular piece up here, a developer is collecting stewardship credits to build another town out east. They have not located a town, but I checked to see what land they own. I couldn't figure out where they'd be buying credits for. They own land here, and they own land out here. This land's pretty sparse, so my guess is they're probably collecting credits for something to go in that area. And of course, we have that village I just mentioned, that 4,500 unit potential right there. Comparison in size, that's Immokalee. 15,000 acres with 25,000 in population. That's Ave Maria. The first phase is about 5,000 acres, but it's part of a bigger area called a stewardship area. So the first phase is only half of the size, overall size of Ave Maria. The population for the first phase, based on persons per household in the census, is about 27,000. This is the one that's proposed, called Rural Lands West. Same situation. They have a bigger stewardship area, but they're only in for 4,000 acres up in the north area right now. That'll produce a population of about 25,000. This is Neal Communities, Winchester Lakes, and that's the proposed Hogan Island site. So out east is where a lot of stuff's going to happen quickly. It's going to grow faster. This is a lot faster than we anticipated when the program was put into play, and I'll show you that particular issue in a minute. But back to our land use. Now, so where's everything happening? Where's the density going on? There's your various facilities that could go in the rural fringe mixed-use district. These three, no one seems to be doing much with yet. That one was recently purchased, so that one is a potential coming forward rather quickly. The four green ones here are those towns I just told you about. They're in process. They're already in for permits in Collier County, and this one, or I think it's that location, is applying for stewardship credits. If it ain't that location, it'll be somewhere up in here. So that's where most of our, that alone is going to create quite a demand from the eastern side. Our road system, there's your demand. That little flame, that's me sitting there every morning. And no, I don't drive in from California. We don't have overpasses quite like that, but where do you see where the overpasses are going to go? And most of it to help service what's happening out east. Collier Boulevard 951. If you drive in this area generally and you want to get to I-75, the shortest route is probably 29. 29 is a straight shot from here to there. Very fast road, two-lane, rural configuration, swales on the side. There's been a lot of deaths, a lot of accidents out there. It's not a pleasant road a lot of people will feel comfortable driving on. So where do they go? They want to come in. They might hit I-951. They could go north by hitting Immokalee Road, which if they want to dare driving down Immokalee Road. But let's say you take 951 south. That's where most of this population right now will have to go. So we looked at where could we put another interchange to cover all the population that's going to go out there, or we'd keep it out of the urban area and they'd be out east further. Well, one of the places is Everglades Boulevard, but the taxpayers would have to pay to eminent domain 900 pieces of property. Very, very, very costly issue. So the developer further east, that is this one right here, Rural Lands, actually it was Big Cypress at the time, said, look, we own the land all the way down to the Ford test track. Let's work out a situation where we can provide that land. Then you only have to get around the Ford's test track, and we could have put a interchange out there. Now, if that were to happen, those 6, 5, 4, whatever hundreds of thousands of people that would be out there would be able to get to I-75 that way, and really would help reduce congestion over here. This is the plan that they had produced. This is the former Big Cypress, which is now called Rural Lands West. Basically, that's how they were suggesting moving the interchange. It'd be good for them, but it'd really be good for the population as a whole. Look at some of the road improvements. Got a couple extensions going on. This one up to Logan is part of it's already complete. The other is on our needs program. We have a piece. I'm going to show you more detail on these. This is Vero Beach Road extension. That one is in for drawings right now to be started in 2021. Benfield Corridor. This is the big one. Going to go all the way down to 41. The first piece. That extension was through I guess it was GL Homes or somebody had this project. It's supposed to be completed up to here now. 951 is still in needs to connect to it, and when they get done, Lee County believes they're going to make the connection in Virginia Beach Road by the end of 2019. We look at that piece along the parallel road to 951. That's called the Benfield Corridor. We already own some of this right-of-way through here, and from this piece, for example, going through Hacienda Lake, some of that's already been completed. So the road is a reality. It's just going to take a while to fund it and get the pieces put together. Before the sports park was actually known, we thought it'd be 10 to 20 years to get up over I-75. That may shorten because of the sports park's activities now. City Gate to Wilson, that one's on our needs plan. We don't have a time frame on that, and the same for the connection to 41. Vero Beach Road extension, there's 2 phases. First phase is going to start in construction in 2021. It's out for stakeholder outreach in the estates with folks right now and in design. And then it's going to finally end up going out to the rural lands west, and it might pick up that north-south link to I-75 out there. We don't have a time frame on that, but it's in our needs plan. When I say we don't have a time frame, it's just because of money. We could start it, but the money's the problem. Look at flyovers. This is where most people don't know these are going on. First one is Mockley Road, Randall, by that Publix I showed you. That's where the first one of the flyovers is going. Heritage Bay, Collier and Mockley Road, right there, and it's an east-west flyover. As we go down further, we got the FDOT's putting a flyover here at I-75 and 951. And then as we go south, that busy intersection, 41 and Collier, that's going to get another one. By the way, I keep saying 951. I've been here so long, I still can't remember. We renamed it Collier Boulevard, so every time you hear 951, it's Collier Boulevard. That's what our overpasses hopefully will look like when they all go in, like the one on Airport Road. I-75, that's how you get down and off I-75 right now, left on, and that's been a problem because the DOT says, you know, that slows traffic down, it causes congestion, you got more lights. We're going to take that out. We're going to put in a cloverleaf, or at least a partial cloverleaf at that interchange. And then we're going to put flyovers over Davis Boulevard, so you no longer got to stop there. You zip on and zip off. And when you actually get on and off, you'll be right turns, so that'll increase the rate of traffic through there. And with the sports park coming up, that's a good thing. They're actually going to start construction in 2021. Housing, some of the numbers that we're dealing with. First of all, apartments. Everybody said, well, we need apartments. The market has responded. The market does respond if we give it enough time. This is a 320-unit project that's been approved, as all of these have been. 304. Laley's under construction. This one came in for apartments. They may be changing that to fee simple. I'm not sure. I just saw something on that. The next pre-app will tell us, and I don't know if they're going to do that or not, but I'll certainly update that next year. Isles of Collier I mentioned earlier. Ave Maria has some rental units out there, and we certainly have some at Milano Lakes for a total of 2,311 units. Now, since that time, the new numbers coming in, we're going to be well over 4,000. This is last year's. New stuff coming in has upped that a bit. We did do an inventory of all apartments in Collier County just to see how it's shaping out. That's a total listing of all it's just under 12,000. And these are the ones that were on here at the time we did it, which was after the first quarter of 2018. That's your 3,000 units there. Now, the difference is the cost. Not all of them are affordable. Some of them are rather expensive. They get very expensive, in fact. So that's the piece we haven't tackled yet. Our inventory is just under 15,000 units of apartments in Collier County. We look at single-family or fee-simple housing, everything but apartments, basically condos and the rest of it. This is what we did in 2015 in December, 187,000 units. I had it redone last July, and it will be redone this coming July. Last July, we bumped up to 197,000 units, and for your purposes of absorptions, it looks like about 480 units a month is what occurs as far as our sales go. Closings, I should say, that go on the tax assessor rolls. That same table blown up so it's a little more user-friendly. 62% of the values start below 300,000. Obviously, they don't stay there. They appreciate, and that gets them out of the less expensive range into the more expensive range. The most expensive units and the least expensive affordable units are in the North Naples and the city of Naples, as we probably would have figured because both are coastal urban for the most part. That spot up to 400 to 500 is still the spot that's not hit the most in any jurisdiction in the county. And if you look at the numbers that as they changed, the greatest number of additional units was in East Naples. The greatest percentage is out in the east area, and that percentage will probably go up dramatically as these new towns come online. So as we look at our population, what does that mean? That means the urban area where our population is currently is not going to be the dominant growth area in Collier County. That's the urban boundary. So in 2040, the numbers they're looking at are going to be out east and out south. This is down past Fiddler's Creek in this area, and that big 6L's Farms area right here. This is the Ave Maria and that area up in here. So how does this is a map or a chart. The green is what we had for population estimates out east before the governor's order in 1999, the plan changes that occurred afterwards. 79,000 total for all these areas. These are the areas of the replanning effort that I've been showing you. After the governor's order, these are the numbers they jumped to based on the governor's order at that time and the language we had in our code. 407. That's quite a dramatic jump. But look what's happened. The replanting effort potentially is going to create more units, and there's reasons for that. But these numbers are prior to any of the replanting increases. So when you add the replanting increases, first of all, this area right here is going to double or more based on what is being requested. And this 176,000 is going to go up. One of the numbers was about 389,000. Because they were going to originally have a footprint about 16,008. That's what we were talked about back then. It wasn't locked in. It was just discussed. But now the acreage is going to be over 40,000. That's a substantial jump in numbers. So when you look at how county is going to grow out, we're going to see differences in our decade growth. Here's the reasons what happened back in 2002 when we finally approved the governor's order. This is what we expected. And notice it was 6,700 acres by the year 2025. We got almost 16,000 acres going through the processes right now. So that's a dramatic acceleration of what's happening out east. On their 5-year review, this is where we discovered that the credits out there were being computed at a much higher rate than expected, and the number of acres they believe they need to utilize that number of credits is 43,000. Now that new number hasn't been approved, but at the same time, the credits have. So it's going to be an awkward balance to figure out how to deal with this as it comes through the system. Look at population. Now, Collier County was 9% in 2016. 2017 did increase to about 11.2%, if I'm not mistaken. That'll be updated. These are the decade, how we're going to grow each decade. 17.8 is what we expect by the 2020, and then it was originally going to start tapering off. But that was before the replanting effort. So the new towns out there are not factored into these numbers. When they actually come online, they start factoring in, that's going to change a bit. We also have an aging population. About a quarter of us now are 65 and older, and I certainly am one of them. That's going to change in 2020, and for the next 3 decades, the population of the 65 and older folks is going to be a lot higher, which is driving a need for affordable senior living facilities. And those facilities are scattered throughout the county. This is the latest map. 56 built facilities with over 7,500 units. Now, they're like the Arlington and the Teresina Grand, and the Erickson's community is just coming in for 420 units next to the Greek Orthodox Church. The hard part about understanding these senior living facilities, unless you've got an awful lot of money, you won't be staying in one of these. I asked the Erickson folks, I said, what do you charge? $500,000 just to get in the door. And it's, so I don't know what we're going to do when we get old. I know I'm not going to be going in one of these. Maybe I'll get one of those storage facilities and set up a little cooker in there. Oh, well. Other services. Schools. School board is on top of it. They have been buying land up out east. There's urban rural. We have 8 new elementary schools being looked at. 7 of them are in the rural area. We have 4 new middle schools being looked at, 3 in the rural area, and the same with high schools. So the school board's been keeping track with everything that's happening out there and buying land up quite consistently. Emergency medical services, we're a little bit behind there. Basically, that's run by how fast people respond. The rural area, this is but we got 5 new proposed units going in, and we are getting some in the rural area. Water. I'm just put a couple slides in here to tell you about water because wherever I go, I get this question. After Cape Town, South Florida has had its problems, and Miami is on a list of number 11 communities with a problem in future hot potable water. And the reason Miami's there is because they draw their water from Biscayne Bay. Biscayne Bay, because the amount of water being drawn out is being infiltrated with saltwater intrusion. That's what this issue is. Basically, that's your saltwater interface. And what happens is the more you draw out here, it just lets us move in. And as sea level rise comes up here, it pushes it in. So what did we do? We took our wells. Most of them now are out east. So our primary wells are way out here, a long distance from where we're going to see saltwater intrusion. In fact, we monitor these on an annual regular basis. And first of all, we draw from the top 3 aquifers. Right here, that's the purest water. It's brackish. It's not salt water, so it's easier to refine. Our systems are set up for that kind of refinement. That's our required capacity. That's what we actually have, and as we need more, we can bring it online. We've been monitoring these wells, and the key wells are remaining steady and in some cases increasing. So when Anybody asks, well, if we have any water problems? We do not. We're not like California and some of the other parts in the country that have real difficult problems right now. So, why is it the greatest place still to live? Look at the date. We're still the warmest place in the nation. Now, the only place warmer is Death Valley, and I spent a lot of time in Death Valley. No amenities in Death Valley. A lot of sand, but no water. Appreciation. The new numbers are even better than this. For the last 17 years, we've seen an appreciation. You invest in Collier County, your value is going to go up on an average of 8.46%, at least historically over 17 years. We had some dips during the recession, but look, we came right out of them again. One of the nice things that happened, the Millikan Institute came out earlier this year and said, hey, we're number 18 on the list of metropolitan areas whose concentration of high tech is in the urban area has been made a dramatic improvement. Now, 18 doesn't sound that good when you see 25, but no, it's 18 out of 401. So we did real well, and that's that other clean industry we were looking for besides tourism and agriculture. Look at the sheriff's office. If people are worried about crime, out of 67 counties, 12 had an improvement in crime. Most of those that had the improvement are much, much smaller than us. Our sheriff's department did a tremendous job. In fact, for 16 years, they've had a drop in crime. We're down 60% less than where it started with. So from a crime rate, we're one of the safest communities in the country. And when you look at what we've done with some of our blue zone efforts, we're the healthiest, happiest in the community. We're third in a row. And for the first time, we've come first and second across all 5 elements. Now, that has a lot to do with the health initiatives of the hospital.